Now that Visionary Realms has shown live in-game footage of the areas of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen that they've been working on for Project Fairvale, let's stop for a moment and take inventory of how much of the world of Terminus has actually been revealed to the community so far.
This is BazgrimTV. Learn, laugh, level up.
I've noticed lately that for whatever reason there seems to be some misinformation floating around the Pantheon community about exactly how much of the game has been shown to the public so far. This usually comes up when talking about how much of the game has been completed to try to estimate when alpha, beta, and release will be. But I'm intentionally going to avoid falling into that thought trap in this video because while the devs have said that the plan is for the continent of Kingsreach to be done before alpha starts, we don't even know how many total zones that is, because as you'll see later in this video, there are some dungeons that exist in the game but aren't specifically labeled on the atlas. Plus, there's simply no way to know for sure what zones have or have not been worked on behind the scenes. For example, a while back, the devs talked about how they had begun work on the steps of Raloon, but this zone has never been shown in a Twitch stream before, and that's just one of the many things that makes crowdfunded MMO development tricky and unusual. The team has said countless times that they don't want to reveal too much of the game, or else there won't be enough of a sense of wonder and surprise left when you're actually playing the game yourself. But at the same time, they need to show some interesting things in order to generate excitement and funding for the game. And there's no established playbook for what that right balance is. Regardless, that need for the devs to periodically go out of their way to polish things up just to demo the game to potential backers makes it an overall longer process compared to games that have funding right off the bat and therefore can have a more linear development process. But anyway, the bottom line is that there's no tangible evidence as to what state of progress the Steps of Raloon are currently in. But at the same time, and this is important, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So all we really know is that we don't know. However, when it comes to how many playable zones have been shown in their developer streams over the years, there is an exact answer. And judging by some of the painfully wrong answers I've seen among some spectators, it may actually be more than you think. And as someone who has watched every single one of those streams, I'd be more than happy to take you on a little tour around all those different zones today. But before we begin, I do just want to remind you that if you want more informative Pantheon coverage like this, hit the subscribe button now, because that's what this channel is completely dedicated to. Now for this video, I'm going to only focus on zones that are playable. That's the key word here, because no zone can really be considered done per se, because they'll all be tweaked to some degree all the way up until launch and beyond. And then there are some zones, like the Merc, as you can see here, which last we saw had quite a bit of work done on it, but can't really be considered playable at that point since it still has a lot of gray boxing. So for now, as of the recording of this video, I think it's best to just take a look at the zones we've seen are playable. So with all that in mind, let's go to the continent of Kingsreach, which, as I said, has been the devs' main focus, as that's the continent they want to have ready for alpha. And we'll start in Thronefast, which is the home city of the human race. And while the city itself is quite large, just outside its walls, still within that same zone, is a newbie yard, where humans will do most of their adventuring from level 1 to about level 8 or maybe 10. Killing animals, skeletons, bandits, etc. Once a human has some experience under their belt, they'll most likely venture out to Avendir's Pass, which is just outside the zone of Thronefast. Avendir's Pass is a large zone filled with pockets of content for about levels 8 to 25. From spiders to bandits to the North Tusk orcs in the region of Hangor. As you're adventuring through Avendir's Pass, you may come across the entrance to Halnir Cave. This is likely the first real dungeon that a human character will encounter. Its dark tunnels filled with ratkin and wraiths is fitting for levels 8 to about level 20. On the other end of Avendir's Pass, you'll find Black Rose Keep. Also known as Keep Leon, this renegade fortress will provide a challenge from level 8 in the camps outside to level 35 on the upper ramparts. Further away on the east coast of King's Reach is Wild's End, the home of the halflings. Now, much like Thronefast, the starting city itself, which is called Sorhirith, is nestled in a larger newbie yard, which, as you can see here, is filled with many colorful creatures. And on the southern coast of King's Reach, we find South Sail Peninsula. This adventure area for levels 20 to 30 is a wide open landscape filled with a variety of fantastical creatures, such as wisps and cockatrices. And at the very tip of South Sail Peninsula is Doku Ja, or as it's more commonly known, the Tower of the Reckless Magician. This level 25 to 35 dungeon rises high above the peninsula and is home to Suja Tal, who some refer to as the Reckless Magician, and he is guarded by many of his loyal faction, called the Seraph, as well as the Karajan, who have come to study the magic tomes kept here. Before we leave King's Reach, we must of course check out the zones included in the most recent Project Fairvale update, which, as I said earlier, includes not only Fairvale, but also its surrounding zones. Let's start with looking at Oldwood, where the trees are as ancient as Terminus itself, and will even talk to you if you stop to listen. And if you jump through this portal in Oldwood, you'll find yourself on the Isle of Infinite Storms. This is the first of 3 raid zones planned for the game. And here, on this ominous floating rock, you are pitted against the Sleepless. And last but not least, we actually have gotten a sneak peek of the separate continent of White Thaw, which is south of Rainfall, but not pictured on this version of the Atlas. And the zone in White Thaw that we've seen gameplay from is Amber Fate. This massive ice cavern under the Tenebrous Tundra is for adventurers level 35 to 45. Almost the entire zone is a frigid climate, and when you combine that with the icy floors, steep drop-offs, and angry dwarves, it's not hard to figure out why this is one of the most dangerous zones we've seen so far. And that, my friends, concludes the list of all 10 playable zones that have been shown in Pantheon developer streams so far. I hope you enjoyed it, and now you have a link to provide to those people who are just out of the loop with the development process. I, of course, am looking forward to seeing more parts of the world unveiled, and as always, I'll be here to pass along the updates to you. So, I'll see you in the next video.